Hey everybody, welcome back to the Matt Report podcast. Today's special guest is Matt Wondra. He's an automatician, and he is helping build Happy Tools. It's a new initiative, new suite of tools for remote workers, remote staff, brought to you, of course, by Automattic. And we're going to dive into that. We're going to dive into the thought process, where this came from. And for those of you who are still hanging on for hope of P2, stick around to the end. You might hear a thing or two about what's going on with that. But Matt was an amazing guest, and it's great to see other Automattic products. And I'm a huge fan, you all know, of Simple Note, and I really loved CloudUp and the video delivery service that's now sort of rolled into Jetpack. So I do love myself a good Automattic product, as critical as I am on WordPress. But I do hope you enjoy this episode and you learn a lot of not only how Automattic approaches building out products, but what they're looking to solve in remote work. I think it's an interesting, even though I'm not a huge fan of that word, an interesting challenge to tackle. And I hope you enjoy today's episode. Also brought to you by User Feedback Videos. That's User Feedback Videos, a little service that I put together where if you have a plugin or a software service, or you just need an extra hand reviewing a landing page or product page or something like that before you go out and send it to the public, go to userfeedbackvideos.com and I'll do a video review of whatever it is you have, and I'll give you that unfiltered feedback that maybe a co-founder that you work with would give you or not give you. And that's why User Feedback Videos exists. All right, let's dive into the episode.
Yeah, thanks. My name is Matt Wondra. I live in Champaign, Illinois, and I've been working for Automattic for about 2 years now. And I joined the team. The team was called Happiness Gardening when I joined, and we were sort of like a technical level of customer support. But right about when I joined, we started becoming more product focused and really delivering our attention towards building and maintaining the actual products that we use for our happiness engineers, our customer support people. And then that sort of transitioned over time into, we went into this new division that, like you said, all these other products that Automattic has that are not our core products, we put them in this division together called Other Bets. And it's sort of, here's the other products that we're betting on as like things that could become profitable, things that could become part of our main business line at some point. And so we kept working on these internal support tools, and then at some point realized, some of these could be really good externally as well. So why don't we start trying that out and releasing them as products for other people to use?
So is that like the Happiness Garden? And did I get that title correct? It's Happiness Garden?
Yeah.
Is that like an internal team to support other automaticians, or is that public facing where you would be talking to consumers?
It was totally internal until a couple weeks ago when we released Happy Tools.
Oh, cool.
and the idea behind the name was Happiness Gardening was we solve the bugs for the happiness teams. So
got it.
But we've since kind of rebranded ourselves and have a new name because we're not so much doing the bug stuff now and more product focused.
So the new product is called Happy Tools, but I'm interested in something that you said because I think it's brilliant, and I think a lot of companies and even small two-person shops to Automattic size, which is, I think the last count I heard was 700 plus. You're always looking for ways to, okay, let's solve a problem, and can the solution be refined into like a bigger internal process, or what I'll say is monetized to turn into a product. What does that process look like before we get into talking about what Happy Tools is and what it does? How do you start to pull away the pieces of that and say, you know what, this is going to be something that we could monetize. We'll put it in this bucket over here and save it for later, and we'll come back to that. How does that work?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, as far as how it worked for these products, it was sort of, there's been ideas tossed around at Automattic for a long time about productizing some of our internal tools. And even so, our main internal blogging engine, where we do a lot of our asynchronous communication, is a theme called P2. And that's publicly available, but it's still sort of you have to download it and host it yourself sort of thing. But we have a lot of tools that are like that we could make more easy for companies to use. And a big part of that balance is, Automattic, like you said, we actually are close to 900 employees now, totally distributed around the world. And so a lot of these tools we've built have been to help us with that sort of unique work situation to manage this crazy, weird team of people who are very rarely in the same physical location, right? So there's a balance between knowing how to build stuff that's just right for Automattic, but also will it work for other companies as well? And so I think what we're starting to see is that the idea behind Happy Tools in particular is more and more teams will be working the way we do in the future, right? There's tons of products coming out for remote and distributed teams. What we have as an advantage is that we're a little bit ahead of the curve in that we've already been through a lot of those pain points, and we've already solved a lot of those problems in a way that works well for us. And so I think that when this Happy Schedule product came up, the project came up about a year ago where our happiness teams were using other products to schedule their time and make sure they were meeting their coverage goals. When we have customers coming into live chat, we need our people there to chat with them. And the other products out there just did not work for a team like ours, where we had people working all hours of the day in different time zones. And so that was the first moment where it kind of clicked of, hey, we've got all these other products that we could start pushing out there. We're building this greenfield product. Why don't we make this in a way that will work externally as well, and make that as sort of our foot in the door of starting to release more and more internal products into this ecosystem.
And what kind of decision or what does the decision process look like to say? Because, I mean, it looks like a really refined product, right? So when I'm looking at, so if for folks who are listening, obviously, happy.tools is the URL. And just obviously looking through the site, great looking site. I mean, obviously it's Automattic, so you all know the web and you know how to do design. But it looks like a really refined product. This isn't like, somebody's MVP, like a small bootstrapper kind of building this thing. It looks like it's taken some time to build this. Has that just been the natural evolution of it internally? It's always looked, this good for what I'll say? Or does somebody say, okay, we've got some rough tooling here, let's turn it into a product? And how do you even start to say, well, it's going to be 6 months to release? Like, what does that look like internally?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, a lot of, like I've mentioned, we have a lot of other internal products that we want to release into this ecosystem. So Happy Tools grows. So we start with Happy Schedule, and then we have other things in there. A lot of those that were built totally internally are sort of rougher, like you'd expect an internal tool to look like. The advantage we had with Happy Schedule was we built it from the ground up, starting about a year ago, knowing that it was really high priority and high value for our team. And so we did think, like, what would it look like for us to not just do the minimum required to make it work, but there's still edge cases and weirdness, but really solve the problem really well internally. And then that actually translates into solving the problem really well for external customers too. And
with the dynamics of Automattic, when you put the flag in the sand, you say, hey, we're going to build this product now. It's going to be public facing. What does it look like internally to draw in more people to the Happy Tools team? Is there like an option in Automattic? Like, hey, new product release, anybody want to hop on board? Because, I know with Simple Note, it's just one guy in a basement and he's doing a damn fine job. That man needs a raise. Just let it be known. But what does it look like for a tool this large and this complex?
That's a good question. It's still kind of ongoing. I mean, we're at the point in the product life cycle where we know that Happy Tools itself is a good idea that we think will be very successful, but it's a very different type of product than anything we've released at Automattic. We have a lot of our products are for single customers. So like WordPress.com, the majority of our customers are probably one person running a website. This type of product, one of the things we've found that is something that we're kind of figuring out is when a whole team needs to get onto a product to find its usefulness and to understand it, there's a bigger barrier to entry there, right? We give a demo to someone and they're really excited about it, but now they have to get 50 other people onto the product and using it in order to be able to see how does this work. So where we're at right now is we're just trying to make sure that we can figure that out with the team we have before we start figuring out, okay, how do we scale this team up? What actually do we need longer term? Like it's been really encouraging that because we spent about 6 months getting it to internal release, and we had some betas internally along the way where teams were using it. But because we've had Automattic using this for 6 months now until public release, there's not a lot of like internal bugs or anything. So a lot of our time and attention can be focused on figuring out how to scale it out to customers, and then we'll start to figure out what those needs are for moving on to the next thing. Can we do that with the team size that we have now? How much do we need to grow, and how quickly?
What is the team size right now?
There's 7 of us that built this. So relatively small still, but it's been fun. We have the the very rare advantage of operating like a startup, but without having our life savings on the line. And we've got HR resources and legal resources and PR resources that we've leaned on. So it's a quote unquote team of 7, but with a lot of satellite resources we've leaned on.
So that opens up the door to a great segue that I was moving into. Is how do you start to define the goals, the success, going after competition? Because I'll just frame this a little bit for you while you think of that. Is I see a product like this, of course I see an idea. I'm like your typical entrepreneur where like I see like the tiniest idea and I'm like, I can see it, 7 years down the road. I'm like, this is going to be massive. So I see this thing competing with like Slack and Microsoft Office and like, anything that's going to be scheduling and collaborating. How do you throttle that in, or how do you make those decisions in goals and going after competition for a product like this?
Yeah, and another great question that is to some degree, we'll figure it out as we go. But the kind of current thought process is, and Matt Mullenweg actually wrote about Happy Tools a couple of days ago on his blog, and something he wrote, which is very true, is like, if other people are solving problems and doing it well, like we don't need to solve those problems. So when you talk about something like Slack, I don't think we'll probably open up some sort of a synchronous like chat system. There's other ways that we'd be competing with kind of the Slack ecosystem and that sort of thing, but they've solved that problem really well. But one of the guiding principles behind Happy Tools is these are all, even as we publicly release them, Automattic is using the same tool you use every day to run our business. And so there's like, in some ways it forces us to be very opinionated about the product. The company Basecamp, I take a lot of inspiration from how they build their products. They have a similar mantra of like, we build these things in a way that we think is the right way to do work. And some people will work great for, some people it might not work well for, and they'll try something else. But the bottom line is like, Automattic is using these things every day. So the types of products we'll release, the way the ecosystem grows will be sort of already set out for us by the way that we internally work, the tools we already have, and the ones we build for ourselves going forward.
And how does a company like Automattic or your team of 7, is that the number count of the Avengers? I was trying to quickly run through the characters in my head. How do you come up with pricing, right? I mean, again, this is something brand new and it is new to Automattic in terms of like the product scope, but certainly not pricing. Do you leverage other teams in Automattic that have price.com and Jetpack stuff and say, hey, here's how we've done it, you should do it this way? Or are you free to just, hey, $60 minimum a month, this is where we're at?
It's a little bit of both, let's say. We asked around a little bit to make sure we were not super far off. But again, like most of our other products are not used by the same type of companies. I don't know if we have any other per seat pricing products at Automattic. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure.
Oh yes, it's the internet.
But the thing we thought about most was a lot of the competitors in this space are, especially with Happy Schedule in particular, are scheduling products that are meant for enterprise level companies. So, and a lot of them are built for things like hospital systems where you're staffing, 1,000 nurses at a hospital. So they can compete on price a little bit better than we can, where they can go to the $2 to $3 per seat per month. And but for us, we're targeting. We built a product that's for. We think of it in a lot of ways as a step up from Google Spreadsheets and Google Calendar, right? Like you're a small but growing company. We've got over 300 people using it internally. We're guessing our primary audience in the early days here will be maybe 50 people or so. And so we sort of put a price that we thought was fair still. We're at $5 per user per month. So it's a little bit higher than competitors, but it helps us because we can't compete on volume the way they can. But it also, I think, stands to show that we really believe that what we've built is better for those size companies. Like it is something that is worth that little extra price. So we're starting there and we'll see how it goes. Another thought is it's always easier to adjust the price down than up. So if we start a little high and then need to adjust down, we can. Sure.
One of the things that I see, which is very common, and not so uncommon to Automattic as well, is products. When a company has a core product that's really doing really well, getting a lot of traction, very profitable for the company, the secondary product or the accessory products come out, they all complement each other. Mm-hmm. How does this product complement WordPress or WordPress.com or Jetpack or the WordPress ecosystem in any way? Is there any forward thinking to integration to a WordPress site or doing things with WordPress that Happy Tools might one day, make a connection with?
Yeah, it's not clear yet. I mean, to some degree, I talked about the division we're in is called Other Bets. We're betting on other products that we could build, other sources of revenue, other things that Automattic can flex its muscles on. And in a lot of ways, what we're doing right now is necessarily different from the other products because we're saying, what's the core thing that Automattic has, the core resource we have that we haven't really tapped into yet? And it's our business thinking. It's the way we've scaled and grown a company in a way that, I think every step along the way, people are saying, you're never going to hit that next 100 people. You're never going to be able to keep building good products with a completely distributed company. So to some degree right now, it is very outside our core product lines. There may be opportunities as we go forward. With a product like Happy Schedule in particular, it's not clear what the value add would be with integrating it with something like WooCommerce or WordPress or Jetpack. But it's definitely something we'll be thinking about as we go forward, but nothing on the roadmap as of yet.
Happily schedule your blog posts, perhaps.
Perhaps.
Well, Matt, so we're about halfway through this conversation. I don't think we've actually defined what Happy Schedule is going to accomplish for somebody. So the brand is Happy Tools, which leads me to believe there will be other tools other than scheduling. But talk to us about Happy Schedule. What is it exactly solving for a particular business?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Something we've learned a little bit in our early days of customers coming to us is that word schedule means so many different things to so many different people. What we're trying to solve is the internal use case, for example, was for customer support. We have 3 different main product lines that all support various channels of customers. So people coming in through live chat, people sending us emails, we schedule one-on-one conversations with our business customers. And so we need to know who's working on what and when. One of the biggest problems, though, is that a lot of the stuff that's out there is, like I said, designed for hospitals or restaurants or really shift-based work. So in a restaurant, you'll say, we have a 12 to 5 shift, and we need 3 waiters there working to fulfill our customer needs. But for us at Automattic, because of our history and because of the way the company works, we really try to give as much flexibility to people as possible. So it's that balance of how do we give our support staff the flexibility to work when they want while also hitting our coverage goals for when we actually have customers coming in the door that we need to respond to. And so that's one of the main things this product solves for us internally is being able to give you as much flexibility so that people can announce when they want to work and on what, and then you can use that to sort of visually see that you're meeting people's daily requirements. So this person needs to have 6 hours of work this day, while also seeing how that affects the global picture of customers coming in the door and being able to meet them there. So that's the primary use case that we solved for is customer support, and it's sort of the market that we're trying to go for initially here, but we're keeping the door open. And we've talked with other companies, we've talked with a couple of software development companies that want to use this tool to manage their Scrum cycles and stuff to see we have a certain number of hours of dev work we need on this task in these 2 weeks. And it's been interesting to see we're not that far off from solving those use cases too. There's other use cases that are very, very similar, like sales teams and that sort of thing that might be able to onboard more closely. But that's the main thing is you have a set of tasks that need to be done and you need to schedule people for when they're doing them in a way that makes sure that every task is resourced at certain times of the day.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I just in that definition alone, one would think of all of the integrations you might, connect with. I mean, right now I'm wearing an Asana t-shirt. You could be connecting up to Asana, Trello, Todoist. I mean, a billion different systems. Would you say that this, if one person wanted to go and just, hey, we want to try this out right now, would you say that this complements your, let's say, existing calendaring system, or does it replace it fully?
It depends on what you're calendaring. For example, we've talked with companies that want to schedule meetings. This is not a good tool for that because it's not for one-off tasks like that. It's not for one-off events. It's more for here's an ongoing list of things that need to be done. But there's other use cases that are outside of customer support. Like we're going to experiment with using this to schedule our volunteer staff at WordCamps. to see, it's just a 2-day event, right? Or 1 or 2 day event, but you have a group of volunteers that you need, people greeting at the door, you need people in the event rooms and that sort of thing. And so this is a tool that can help you visualize that sort of thing as well. So I think it can complement stuff like Google Calendar and that you already use, but some tools it can replace as well.
It's fantastic. Some of the folks in the audience are going to be interested to learn on what this is built on, what kind of technology stack. What is it from just a 50,000-foot view? Is it new technology that you've introduced into Automattic, or is it stuff you've used in the past?
It's not. It's pretty standard stuff that we use at Automattic. It's a single-page application built with React and Redux, and then it's communicating to an API layer that's actually using the WordPress API. So it's the primary product is built on WordPress.com infrastructure, but we've built it in a way that it can be mounted onto any WordPress instance, so that for our staging environments and that sort of thing, we can boot those up outside of our primary production environments. So it's pretty boring technology, but it's working fantastically well.
And what has been some of these challenges that maybe you just weren't aware of until you've actually launched? And I know like when we were chatting back and forth with email, you've been doing a couple PR rounds, maybe some other podcasts, some other blog interviews, that kind of thing. You have a request demo link here on the site where I'm assuming you're connecting up and scheduling one-on-one demos for folks. What kind of challenges have you faced so far? Is it understanding? Is it sales? Is it price? What has it been?
I'll say there's 2 things. From the product standpoint, we released it internally, and then 2 months later, we invited some beta customers on. All of our beta customers have this exact same problem, which is they don't schedule as flexibly as we do. So at Automattic, our processes are everyone can pick their own schedule of when they're working every day. So every day can be totally unique, and you're scheduling a group of 200 plus people for each day. So it just makes sense for us to say, well, since every day is totally unique, we'll have one person go in and actually fill out who's working on what when manually, because using some sort of templating or whatever just doesn't work for us. Every other customer that's come on board was like, hey, can we have templates? Can we have templates? Can we have templates? So we built that in, but that's really the only product hiccup we've seen. The bigger thing is, like I was talking about before, it's hard moving people and getting people onto this platform to try it out and evaluate whether it's going to be useful. It's every demo we've given, people are so encouraging and so yeah, this could really work for us. But then it's people have busy lives, and people, especially people in customer support, they are trying to manage setting up these admin tools while also working with customers. And so that's the delta we're trying to close in on right now, is figuring out the best ways that we can help these customers so that as soon as they're excited about using the product, we make it as easy as possible for them to get their entire team on board and using it and evaluating whether it's the right thing for them or not.
I quickly scanned Matt Mullenweg's post on Happy Tools, and one of the things that I've always admired, although I've been a critic of Matt in the past, a good critic, a positive critic of Matt in the past on regarding WordPress and Jetpack, but one of the things I've always fallen behind and supported Matt on is WordPress as the operating system of the web. I mean, I truly believe in that mission, and I love that statement from Matt. I noticed that he's used the same phrase here with the operating system of what helped Automattic scale, and sort of paraphrasing here, let's give that out to, not give it out, but let's provide it to other businesses or organizations that want that same operating system. The connection of tools, the connection of apps, and your difficulty sort of selling the Automattic way to other businesses who are so much more rigid. Is this an effort to more broadly spread what you and I both know as remote work and the digital life? Is this much more of that effort versus just a product? Is it more theory versus product in this case, where Automattic wants to change the business landscape by thinking in theory versus lines of code, if this makes sense?
It does. It totally does. And I think that it's both, right? When another thing that Matt likes to say is he likes to throw out the Walt Disney quote of, we don't make movies to make money. We make money so we can keep making more movies. And WordPress is an example of that, where we as a company need to make money, but there also is a broader mission we're trying to serve. And I think it's true with Happy Tools as well. to some degree, we see that we're ahead of the curve on what we're calling the future of work, right? It's remote, but it's also like co-located companies can use these tools as well, because a lot of the things that forces you to think in a remote environment is actually really good and healthy for companies that are all in the same place. Things like not worrying so much about being synchronously communicating at all times, but documenting, brain dumping everything onto a place where it's searchable and people can see it for a long period of time. Everyone can catch up in their own time. So this is a similar thing where we see that we're ahead of the curve on distributed work. And so putting our tools out there does sort of help create that market that will come to us, because why haven't more companies done this? You hear this all the time. You hear companies saying, right. "Oh, distributed work is great, but we just can't make it possible. It just wouldn't work for us." And so we are trying to say, no, it can work for you. And we want to provide the tools that help you avoid the pitfalls that we've gone through in getting there.
It's a fascinating thing to see, again, like folks like you and I and people who are listening to this years ago when distributed work and remote work was a thing for us. We're like, wow, this is, and this is, I don't know, let's say 2014 or even earlier, let's say 2012. And we're like, this is going to, next year, everyone's going to be working from home. Well, here we are like 10 years later and people are still like, what is this? What do you mean you work from home? Like, yep. There's, where I live is about an hour south of Boston. And actually a member of your Jetpack team, Jeff Kalinsky, he and I are both good friends, we both work out of the same co-working space. And so again, an hour south of Boston, it's not the big city. And when people walk into our co-working space for like the first time, people are like, what are all these people doing?
Yeah.
Like, what you all have jobs right now? And people still don't understand. So it's amazing to see like an effort like this is not just about the product, but it's about the influence on the industry, which I think is very important.
Yeah. And I think, as we've been building this stuff out, I've been paying attention a lot more to other products that are trying to serve this similar need. And one of the things that I'm seeing too is a lot of the products are sort of trying to make it actually, how can you work distributed in a way as if you were all in the same office? Like it's actually not challenging the status quo and rethinking what work looks like for a distributed team. It's things like, well, how can we make sure that your distributed team all says when they're going to be working at the same time? And how can we make sure that they're all scheduling meetings at the same time and that sort of thing, rather than acknowledging the reality that like the beauty of distributed work is you don't all have to be working at the same time. You don't all have to be, you can build great stuff in an asynchronous way. And even like it opens up the door to them when you start thinking in that way, you can adjust to people's real lives too. People have kids that they need to pick up for emergency situations at school and that sort of thing. And as soon as you don't care so much when people are in the office and as soon as you trust that asynchronous communication works well, you can account for those things and really let people not just work where they want to, but like make work a part of their lives instead of scheduling their lives around their work.
Sometimes I hear this in smaller agency circles, right? Folks who are running a 2 or 3 person like boutique agency shop around, building WordPress sites and whatnot. And I've been guilty of this myself, where you bring somebody on and you just say, hey, look, I don't care when you work as long as the job gets done. Can be a dangerous phrase to say in some cases, sure. Right? Because especially in the beginning when you don't, you trust the individual that you're hiring, you might have gone through this long, lengthy, onboarding process or what have you. And then you say, hey, don't care when you work as long as the job gets done. Does a tool like this, or will the tools like this help measure the business or help the business owner measure that result? Or is this just like, I don't know, it's like it's all important, much more important in the fabric of the person that's coming in the door? Like can software solve that kind of equation, or is it really about the human factor before they even enter into this culture?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I think software can augment and enable the innate capability people do have to be given trust and to get work done when they say they're going to get it done. I do not think that software is the only thing we can introduce here, though. Let's say that, and this is thinking big, thinking long-term for Happy Tools. We're building a software platform right now, but even right now we're seeing with Happy Schedule, there's process changes people need to make in order to use a new tool. What kind of process changes? What kind of HR thinking? What kind of, like you're talking about, how do you as a team lead, as a manager, assign work and trust that it's going to get done, but still follow through and make sure that it's getting done. And so probably it means there's more education and consulting and maybe conferences. Like maybe there's a Happy Tools conference down the line that really helps with the soft skills and the stuff that revolves around the software enables you to do, but you still need to go through that change as a company and as people in order to get there.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. What was the name of the division that you're in again?
Other Bets.
Other Bets. Is there like a red stapler division? Because that's the one that I just want to be that guy. I wonder if Matt would let me in. Matt, can I just start the red stapler division? Just throw me in an office somewhere in Automattic so I can just kind of absorb all of this.
I'll pitch it. I'll pitch the idea.
Yeah. Well, cool. Matt, any new incoming changes? I mean, I know this is just brand new and you're maybe sort of stepping away for a little bit just for some time off, but are you introducing a new add-on or a new tool, I guess I can say, to the suite of things here anytime in the near future? Yeah,
so our current roadmap is, first off, still doing everything we can to figure out the flow of customers coming on to this new type of product that is very different for Automattic. So we're doing some work on some of the onboarding flows. But feature-wise, we just kicked off a product to integrate with Zendesk, which is a huge tool for customer support agents. So both having a marketplace app that lives inside Zendesk for you to see, who's working on your chat and tickets and all that at the same time. And then also integrating Zendesk data into Happy Schedule so you can do more reporting on kind of productivity and how things looked compared to what you thought was going to happen. And then the next, we talk about Happy Tools as a suite of products. The next product we introduce will be our customer chat product. We call it Happy Chat. And that's something that we've built a couple years ago and been using internally for a long time. And it'll complement Happy Schedule real nicely to start, continue focusing on the customer support side of things before we continue next into, products that are more generally useful for companies as a whole, like our P2 product. Some version of that will probably make its way into the system here and that sort of thing.
I know people that are just clamoring to get P2 or a new version of P2 out into the wild. Is that ever gonna make its way?
It will. I'll say it will. Yeah. I mean, it's something that we know for sure. I mean, we know, especially when we talk about being a remote company and how do you manage asynchronous communication. It's a product that's worked well for us, and so leaning on its knowledge or integrating it as is, is definitely on the roadmap.
Awesome. Matt, where can folks find you to say thanks?
I have a very inactive Twitter account at Matt Wondra. I'm not very publicly online, but if you want to give a shout out, you can give it there.
Awesome. Everybody else, and I'll add to that. Say thanks to the other Matt in WordPress. I would say probably like the fifth most important Matt in WordPress. Tweet to @photomatt and say, hey, you listen to Matt and Matt on the Matt Report, and thumbs up.
That's right.
To what's going on with the suite of tools at happy.tools. It's happy.tools. You can check it out. Check out Happy Schedule. Minimum $60 a month. I like that pricing. I like that. I like that it's not just, you can't just sign up for one user for $5 a month. It's a minimum of 60 monthly. Very clever. Very clever bringing on at least smaller teams into the ecosystem. It's mattreport.com. mattreport.com/subscribe to join the mailing list. We'll see you in the next episode.